Which fighter is the best fighter? This week we decide which fighter is a smash and which is just straight up trash. Hello players and GMs, I'm Reese and welcome to another video by Jetpack7. Before we get started today, I just want to remind everyone that our giveaway is still going on. You still have a short while to enter and potentially win some free Jetpack7 stuff, so click on the link in the description to see what that is all about. We're currently at about 950 subscribers. The giveaway ends at 1,000. In addition, we just opened up our new playtest environment called The Arsenal, a PDF that is updated and added to every week or so that you can download completely for free. The link to that will be right below the giveaway link. And lastly, as I said, our channel is sitting around 950 subscribers at the time of writing and recording this video, and I would absolutely love it if we could get to 1,000 by early August, so feel free to spread the word of our channel if you're feeling so generous. It would mean the absolute world. But that is enough of these announcements. Let's get back to business here. Which fighter is the best fighter? Now let me start off by saying that the fighter by itself, no archetype included, is absolutely incredible. No matter what fighter you play, you're going to be a whirling dervish of attacks and it feels incredible. Adding literally anything to the base fighter class is powerful as heck, but this is a ranking video, so I have to pick the best one, so that's what we're gonna do. Starting off with the one that is absolutely not the strongest and is in fact the weakest, we have the Banneret. The Banneret is also called the Purple Dragon Knight. The Banneret was kind of intended as this support bard-esque sort of fighter who inspires their allies and lends them their fighter strength in battle, but it kind of just resulted in this archetype being very, very underwhelming. To start off, at 3rd level, you get a feature called Rallying Cry, which basically just means your second wind also heals up to 3 of your allies for your fighter level. Not a terrible ability, but also not one you'll really be feeling the effects of too often. Second wind can only happen once per short or long rest, and the fact that you are only healing for your fighter level just won't feel that great. 10 HP once per short rest doesn't go very far at 10th level. At 7th level, you gain proficiency in persuasion or some other skills if you already have proficiency in persuasion, and then you essentially gain expertise in persuasion as well. You all know I'm a sucker for skill proficiency, but fighters don't prioritize charisma. Some might for whatever character they're building, but otherwise there's just no reason for this feature to exist, really, other than the header at the feature, which says, "Knights of high standing are expected to conduct themselves with grace." Which, like, yeah, I guess, but why does this have to be a feature? At 10th level, you get Inspiring Surge. When you use your action surge, one ally within 60 feet can use their reaction to make an attack. At 18th level, 2 allies can do that. Again, not terrible, just not something you'll be feeling the effects of super often. And one ally being able to make one additional attack while also having to use their reaction feels a little rough to me. Lastly, at 15th level, you get Bulwark. When you use Indomitable to reroll an Intelligence, a Wisdom, or a Charisma saving throw, you can allow one ally within 60 feet who also failed that same effect to reroll their save as well. At 15th level, you have 2 uses of Indomitable, so that is twice you can do that, and only if you and another ally were hit with the same AoE spell or effect that forces either an Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma save. Pretty specific and pretty dang weak, unfortunately. I like the idea of this fighter, but it just isn't great, sadly, and definitely has earned its spot at the bottom of the list. Next up, in 7th place, we have a fighter archetype that I want so badly to like, but it just drops the ball in my opinion, the ELDRITCH Knight. The ELDRITCH Knight has been forced into the unfortunate position of being an archetype that benefits from a wide stat spread, which just inherently makes it weaker than other archetypes. Obviously, a fighter wants their dex or strength to be strong, and then likely their constitution as well, since they usually find themselves as a frontline fighter. ELDRITCH Knight encourages the additional stat of intelligence. Otherwise, your spellcasting is just going to feel rather weak. You get some wizard cantrips and you get spellcasting up to 4th level. The thing is, you don't get a 4th level spell until 19th level. Your spell selection is even further limited by restricting the school of spells you can choose from to Abjuration and Evocation. I despise this part of the class because there are like 3 evocation spells I would want to take on an Eldritch Knight. I want to enhance my own physical capabilities, not shoot out a DC 12 fireball from a 13th level character. That's when you get 3rd level spells, by the way, 13th level. Anyway, let's talk about the features. To start off, you get a weapon bond, which just bonds a weapon to you. You can't be disarmed unless you're incapacitated, and you can summon it to your hand as a bonus action. Cool imagery, probably not worth making an entire feature out of. At 7th level, you get War Magic, which allows you to make a bonus action attack if you use your action to cast a cantrip. This is probably my least favorite feature in this archetype. Instead of doing what you're good at as a fighter, which is attacking, you can spend your entire action casting a cantrip that will not only do less damage than all of your attacks, but is probably even less likely to hit than your attacks. And then you can use your bonus action to actually use one of your attacks, which implies that you're within range to attack a creature. So you probably should have just done that as your action. Again, I like the imagery, but it just doesn't make sense mechanically to replace your attack action with casting a cantrip. At 10th level, if you hit a creature with a weapon attack, they have disadvantage on the saving throw against the next spell you cast on that creature until the end of your next turn. This one is pretty good, but only because it helps make up for the fact that your saving throw is likely very low. At 15th level, you can teleport 30 feet when you action surge, which is, again, really cool imagery, but also something you could just do as a bonus action with Misty Step if this archetype allowed you to take conjuration spells. And finally, at 15th level, you can make an attack as a bonus action when you cast any spell as an action. This is just simply what the War Magic feature should have been back at 7th level. It's not like your spellcasting is particularly potent or anything, since at 7th level you can only cast a whopping 2 second level spells, so yeah, this archetype just really misses the mark of being a battle mage, and the more I think about it, the more I want to rework it, so maybe I'll do a little video on that soon. Next on our list, in 6th place, we have a fighter intended for long-range fighting, the Arcane Archer. I enjoy this archetype for what it offers, but much like the previous two, I just feel it's a little underwhelming when put into practice. It starts off by giving you proficiency in either Arcana or Nature, as well as either the Prestidigitation or Druid Craft cantrip. I guess it's going for this whole do you want to be a Nature Wizard or Arcane Wizard kind of deal, which I think is kind of settled by the name of the archetype. Either way, you also get the core of the archetype at 3rd level called Arcane Shot. You have 2 uses of it and gain additional options as you level up, but not additional uses. The strongest ones, in my opinion, are the ones that can remove creatures from combat or lock them in place, like Banishing Arrow, Shadow Arrow, and Grasping Arrow. They're really nice if the creature fails the required save, but once again, we have a save determined by intelligence. The one fortunate part about encouraging the stat spread this time is that you may not need to focus so much on Constitution, since you're strictly a ranged fighter this time around. That said, I do wish they had more than 2 uses once you get into the later stages of the game. At 7th level, your arrows become magical for the sake of overcoming magical resistance. Pretty helpful. I think stuff like this is just kind of a necessity when you've got a class that is restricted to using one method of attacking. And at 15th level, if you have no uses of Arcane Shot available when you roll initiative, you gain 1 use. This one is actually really nice because of how often I think this would happen. This just allows you to be way more free with your use of the ability, rather than trying to ration out 2 uses of your cornerstone feature between rests. Overall, I don't hate this archetype, but it does kind of just end up being a regular archer, and I think if I'm going to be an archer fighter, I'd rather just choose a different archetype. In 5th place, we have the Samurai. To start off, you learn a language of your choice, as well as gain proficiency in either History, Insight, Performance, or Persuasion. I'm liking the archetypes that start off with a skill proficiency, because I just like proficiencies, okay? Also, at 3rd level, you gain Fighting Spirit, which essentially allows you to enter a stance as a bonus action that gives you advantage on all weapon attacks until the end of your current turn, as well as 5 temp HP. The temp HP also increases to 10 at 10th level and 15 at 15th. And you can use this feature 3 times between long rests. This is super nice. Keep in mind, you gain advantage on all attacks until the end of your current turn, which means you can action surge in there too. And you can use it 3 times, which is kind of a random number, but it's at least better than once or twice, obviously. At 7th level, you can add your Wisdom modifier to any persuasion checks you make, and you gain advantage on Wisdom saving throws. If you already have proficiency in Wisdom saves, you can choose either Intelligence or Charisma. This part is actually really strong. Wisdom saves are some of the most commonly made saving throws in the game, so just getting proficiency in those as part of an archetype feature is amazing. At 10th level, you gain Tireless Spirit, which gives you 1 use of your Fighting Spirit feature if you don't have any at the beginning of combat. Awesome, just a guaranteed turn of advantage. No complaints there. At 15th level, there's a really cool ability called Rapid Strike. If you have advantage on an attack against a target, you can forego that advantage to instead make an additional attack against that target no more than once per turn. I really like this ability because it synergizes so well with the main feature of the archetype and just further enhances the fighter's ability to attack a million times per turn. And finally, at 18th level, you gain Strength Before Death, which allows you to immediately take a turn whenever you take damage that reduces you to 0 HP rather than falling unconscious. You still fail death saves as usual when taking damage, and then when the turn ends, you fall unconscious. I like this one too. It gives a really cool kind of swan song before you maybe die, and has some really great potential for an extremely cinematic death, which I am a pretty big sucker for. In 4th place, I've placed what is, in my opinion, the simplest archetype in all of 5e, the Champion Fighter. The Champion Fighter is a classic example of someone who just wants to run up and smack stuff with their weapons, and they're really dang good at it too. To start off, you gain the ability to crit when you roll a 19 or a 20 on a d20. This is why a 3-level dip into Fighter and then Champion is so common. Doubling your chance to critically strike is huge, and will pay off a lot more than you think. That means with every single attack, there is a 10% chance of a crit. That may not sound huge, but anybody who plays a rogue in World of Warcraft knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say every percentage makes a massive difference. At 7th level, your running jump distance increases by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier, and you can add half your proficiency to any strength, dexterity, or con check that doesn't already add your proficiency bonus. At 10th level, you learn an additional fighting style. At 15th level, you can now crit on an 18, and at 18th level, you regain HP equal to 5, plus your Constitution modifier if you have no more than half your hit points remaining. Like I said, this archetype is super duper simple, and there's not much to say about it, but honestly, that's where its strength is. Sometimes very simple bumps to base abilities are incredibly powerful, and that definitely holds true for this archetype. In 3rd place, we have what I imagine when I think of the fighter, the Battlemaster. The Battlemaster is the fighter that has, well, mastered battle. That's what sets apart the fighter from the barbarian to me. The barbarian wades into battle with brute strength, while the fighter has trained for years and mastered their craft. And the Battlemaster is the epitome of that idea. Right away, you gain superiority dice, which you can spend on battle maneuvers, which can do things like disarm an opponent, trip them, parry an attack, stuff like that. There are tons of maneuvers, and all of them are really great, especially since you start out with 4 dice and 3 maneuvers of your choice. You also gain more maneuvers as you level and gain a couple more superiority dice to spend on them. And the best part is that the save DC of your maneuvers is based on either your strength or dexterity, not your intelligence. And at 3rd level, you get proficiency with an artisan's tool of your choice, which is fine. At 7th level, you can spend a minute out of combat analyzing an opponent, and the DM has to tell you if they are superior, equal, or inferior in a certain regard. You can learn 2 of the following: strength score, constitution score, dex score, armor class, current hit points, total class levels if any, and fighter class levels if any. This is pretty cool, though I'd imagine it wouldn't come into play that often. At 10th level, your superiority dice increase from a d8 to a d10 and a d12 at 18th. And at 15th level, you gain 1 superiority die if you start combat without any. We've seen that before, and it's just as nice here. Having 1 guaranteed maneuver every combat is pretty awesome, but at this point, having 5 superiority dice shouldn't feel too limiting. Either way, this archetype is awesome and offers a lot of variety in a class that is notoriously repetitive. Our 2nd place archetype was actually pretty surprising to me, and is one I've only seen played once, and I guess it never really struck me how strong it really was: the Cavalier. I guess I've kind of been sleeping on the Cavalier because I was under the assumption that it revolved more around mounted combat, which is kind of tough to do in 5e, but there's only actually 1 feature that encourages mounted combat. The rest just makes you a better fighter. At 3rd level, you learn a language and then gain a proficiency in either animal handling, history, insight, performance, or persuasion. In addition, you get born to the saddle. This gives you advantage on saves against being dismounted, and if you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet. Mounting and dismounting also only cost 5 feet rather than half your speed. That's really the only feature that explicitly requires mounted stuff. And at that same level, you get Unwavering Mark. When you successfully attack a creature, you can mark them until the end of your next turn. While the marked creature is within 5 feet of you, they have disadvantage on any attacks that do not target you. In addition, if that creature damages anyone other than you, you can make a special bonus action attack against it on your next turn. The attack is special because you have advantage on it, and it deals extra damage equal to half your fighter level. You can mark creatures as many times as you want, but you can only make the bonus action attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier between long rests. That's a lot, and that's just 3rd level. At 7th level, you gain Warding Maneuver. Whenever a creature within 5 feet of you is hit with an attack, you can use your reaction to increase the target's AC by a d8. Even if the attack still hits, that creature has resistance to that damage. You can use this a number of times equal to your con modifier, which, as we know, I love. At 10th level, creatures provoke attacks of opportunity from you when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. And if you hit them with an opportunity attack, their speed is reduced to 0 until the end of the current turn. At 15th level, you can charge an enemy whether you're mounted or not. If you move 10 feet or more in a straight line and hit a creature with an attack, they have to make a strength save or be knocked prone. And finally, at 18th level, you essentially gain the ability to make an opportunity attack on every other creature's turn, which, considering the fact that you trigger opportunity attacks in 2 ways and reduce their movement speed to 0 if you hit, this feature is actually insane. So yeah, the Cavalier is a very protection-focused fighter that is actually a master of controlling the battlefield and making sure the GM wants to rip their friggin' hair out anytime they try to move a creature. And to me, it has cemented its place at 2nd. And finally, the strongest fighter of them all is one we actually just received recently by Critical Role's Matthew Mercer, the Echo Knight. The Echo Knight is the strongest, in my opinion, because it takes all of the fighter's weaknesses and melts them away in very satisfying ways. This archetype revolves around creating echoes of itself, essentially clones that can attack and do some other stuff too. At 3rd level, you gain the ability to create a magical echo within 15 feet of you as a bonus action. It has 1 hit point and its AC is equal to 14 plus your proficiency bonus and has to stay within 30 feet of you or it is destroyed. You can do a few different things with this echo. First of all, you can use a bonus action to magically swap places with the echo at the cost of 15 feet of movement. In addition, when you make an attack, you can attack from either your position or the position of the echo. That is whenever you attack. And your echo can also use opportunity attacks when a creature moves away from it by using your reaction. These echoes basically just create 2 of you and massively increase your reach and mobility in the battle, which is one of the fighter's most glaring weaknesses. And that's not even all you get at 3rd level. You can also make an additional attack from your echo whenever you make the attack action, and you can do that a number of times equal to your con modifier. At 7th level, you can essentially put your mind in your echo and sense what it is sensing for 10 minutes. During this time, it can be about 1,000 feet away from you, rather than the standard 30. At 10th level, you can use your reaction to teleport your echo to absorb an attack against a creature you can see. The attack is directed instead at the echo, which means if the attack misses, the echo doesn't disappear. But you can only use this ability once between a short or long rest. At 15th level, whenever one of your echoes is destroyed by taking damage, you gain temp HP equal to 2d6 plus your constitution modifier. You can do this a number of times equal to your con modifier. And finally, at 18th level, you can now make 2 echoes instead of just 1. So your range and mobility have increased even further, as you can essentially be present at 3 different locations on the battlefield. No additional action economy gained by any means, but it still just gives you even more options than this class already has. Considering the strength of those features, I think this archetype makes a pretty damn convincing case for being the strongest fighter currently in 5th edition. Well, that is my ranking of each of the fighter archetypes. Let me know in the comments what you think of my list. Remember to check out our giveaway video for a chance to win some free stuff, and I hope to hear from you on our Discord channel about our playtest material on the Arsenal. But until then, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you around.